ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد، فيقول الله تبارك وتعالى: إن أول بيت وضع للناس للذي ببكة مباركا وهدى للعالمين فيه آيات بينات مقام إبراهيم ومن دخله كان آمنا ولله على الناس حج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا ومن كفر فإن الله غني عن العالمين. وعن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: من حج فلم يرفث ولم يفسق رجع كيوم ولدته أمه. وعنه صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: الحج المبرور ليس له جزاء إلا الجنة، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this beautiful and complete deen, which covers not only every aspect of our worldly lives, but it has the completion of our spirituality. It helps us identify our purpose in life, and it gives us direction for that. And whatever we are required in order to achieve that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it to us in this deen. It is not just lofty ideals. It is not just idealistic mantra, but it is a practical way of achieving completeness and fulfillment in this life. And that sense of fulfillment that everyone is yearning for, it is impossible without the development of our ruh, our soul. Because our bodies make up only part of what we are and who we are. And this is the temporary part of our existence. These bodies are temporary. They have come from the earth, they will go back to the earth. This ruh is permanent. It has not come from the earth, it will not go back to the earth. It has come from above and it will go back above. The needs of the body, like the body itself, are all related to the world, to this earth. And from the earth and its things, its substances, food, clothing, shelter, transport, all of these things are provided through this earth and its resources and its substances. But the ruh, because it is not a worldly thing, its needs are also not related to this world and its substances and its resources. Rather, the needs of the ruh are fulfilled from the same place that it came from, and that is above. Islam, being a monotheistic religion, revolves entirely around the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything revolves around this core concept. So spirituality in Islam is then also an offshoot, a branch of Tawheed, of getting closer and closer and closer to one. and building one's life around one. And running everything, including preferences, do's and do nots, choices, running everything around one. And getting so close to Him that everything else in front of Him seems insignificant or less important. And then a person continues this journey and gets closer and closer and gains more and more of His recognition until not only are things other than Him less important, but then they no longer become important. And a person continues, and they reach a point where those things not only lose their importance, but they lose their relevance. And a person continues in this journey until those things they start losing their reality. They don't even seem real anymore. Everything seems so transient, so temporary, so flimsy in its existence, so weak, that they hardly seem real in front of the true and only reality, which is Allah. And that reality becomes more and more and more obvious to the person. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْحَقُّ الْمُبِينَ. In this person's heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with all His attributes, becomes the plain truth, so obvious and so well established that a person does not see much value in engaging with anything other than Him. This, of course, does not lead a person to becoming negligent in their worldly life, or careless, or reckless. No. Because they're linking themselves to Him, they're also linking themselves to His commandments. Islam is not a form of pseudo-spirituality where it's all about feeling good, getting close to Allah and feeling good about it, all in your heart and your mind. In fact, a part of the completion of one's spirituality is to fulfill the commandments of Allah. There is no spirituality without fulfilling the commandments of Allah. And as a person is enlightened about this, they realize that the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are not just about Him, but they're also about the people in this person's life. They're also about rights and duties and obligations. They're also about looking after other people. They're also about akhlaq. And in this way, this race towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completes a person in all aspects of their being. In their belief system, in their system of worships, in their social system, their emotional system, economically, any aspect that this person is living with becomes complete through this race towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The race of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not detach a person or disjoint them from the realities of this world, from the duties and obligations in this world. No. The ultimate completion of worships, and there are different kinds of worships that have been prescribed in Islam. There are those which are physical, in which a person only needs to invest themselves, their body. The mind is always attached to this, but what is a person using primarily? It's their body, such as salat and fasting. These are purely physical acts of worship in which a person needs to engage just themselves physically. Then we have zakat, which is a purely financial form of worship in which a person is engaging just their wealth. But look at Hajj. It engages every aspect of a person's being. It involves exertion of a physical nature and exertion of a financial nature, exertion of an emotional nature, and many other things which we will talk about. So because it engages every aspect of the human being, it is also the most complete form of worship. And because the purpose of Hajj is to complete a person's ibadah and ubudiyah, ibadah meaning act of worship, ubudiyah meaning servitude to Allah. Hajj was given to complete our servitude to Allah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this ummah Hajj at the very end, the last of all the worships given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the last of all the ibadat demonstrated by our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It came at the end, after years and years and years of practicing the exercise of physical worship and practicing the exercise of financial worship. After this had become not only their routine, but this had become their nature to exert themselves physically for Allah and to exert themselves financially for Allah, Allah gave them a ibadah that completed, put everything together in one package. So Hajj is the completion of our deen. It's the completion of our bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It needs to be looked at in this way, that we are going to complete and to perfect our deen. Now this will make us think of a few very important matters. The first thing is, am I ready to complete my deen? It's the first question. Am I ready to complete my bond with Allah? Am I ready to completely submit to Allah? That thing that is Islam, the core of Islam, which is submission. Am I ready to submit completely and entirely? Because this talk is primarily for those that are going for Hajj this year. In other words, they've already not just signed up, but a lot of their arrangements have already been made. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about the requirements and the prerequisites. Those are things that you would have had to look at before coming here. And if you're still unsure, then go to ulama and ask them. And as for those who are planning to go for Hajj at a future time, inshallah, there will be more talks, inshallah, in the coming Hajj seasons to prepare you right from the beginning. But this is for those who are gearing to go for Hajj now. So because we've already decided to go and we've made the arrangements to go, we must come to the reality that it's time for us to decide that now I'm going to complete my deen. I'm not going to pull out of this. So make this intention now, that we are going to complete our submission, our Islam. We are going to complete the aspects of deen, and we are going so that we return as complete Muslims. After all, it was during Hajj that this verse was revealed. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Today I have completed your deen for you. I have perfected my favors upon you, and I have selected Islam as the only acceptable deen for you. So now, because we have this intention, we should understand that the essence of Hajj is to run towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way that a person is not paying attention to their own comforts. This is the essence of Hajj. Because this is one talk, normally there would be a series of talks or classes or lessons that are given, and we have time to go into each area in detail. We don't have that luxury at this point. So I'm going to give you some principles, some core principles. If you understand them and you hold on to them, inshallah, you will not have any problems. Other things, you still have time to learn. The detailed masail, you still have time to learn. Questions specific to your circumstances, you still have time to ask. But there are some things that you cannot go to Hajj without. I want to give you those things in this session. There are some things that no Haji should leave their home without. This is one of them. Hajj is running to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without consideration of one's own comforts, desires, wants. A person leaves all of that behind. Because a person leaves all of that behind and they're rushing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the pleasure of Allah is the only thing that should matter to a Haji. Hajj is not, I'll tell you what Hajj is not. Hajj is not a trial to see how it goes, what it's like. Hajj is not tourism. So we go and see Baytullah and see Makkah and Medina and see those places. We're not just going to see. It's not about exploring. It's definitely not a shopping trip. Nor is it something we do because it is a social expectation. That if I don't go, what will people think? Absolutely not. So there are some things that we need to get straight before we go. Because this is something only for Allah, it revolves around Allah, it's the completion of Iman and Deen. The first thing we need to get straight is the intention. The intention is only to please Allah and to fulfill our obligation to Allah. There is nothing else. And the intention is also to perform it in the best way possible. This is also a necessary intention. If this intention is made, then you will observe not just the bare necessary, essential, crucial things. So you can just, get by the skin of your teeth. If you have this intention that I want to do this Hajj in the way that is the best way possible, through which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased the most, then you will not only observe the basics, but you will try to observe every sunnah of Hajj. You will observe all the etiquettes of Hajj, and you will not cut corners. There is a culture amongst Hujjaj to cut corners, to look for the most relaxed position or the fatwa that gives you the most concessions in every rukn of Hajj. There are Hujjaj that are going like this. This is called tatabbu' al-rukhas. In simple language, chasing after discounts. Looking for discounts in everything. This is not a marketplace where you're trying to get 50% off there and 30% off there. This is the completion of your deen. The idea is to give everything in the most complete way, not to give everything in the most incomplete way. Taking away as much as you can, take away from this, take away from this, take away, what's left? After spending so much wealth, exerting so much energy, making so many arrangements to be able to do this, you want to cut corners? So that's why make it a part of your intention that I want to perform Hajj in the most complete and the most perfect way that's possible for me. And I'm not going to go down that road of looking for ways around things, trying to cut corners, trying to take shortcuts. No. And inshallah, your Hajj will be a life-changing, it will be a life-changing event. Otherwise, it will solidify in your mind this mentality of cutting corners in every other area of your deen as well. This mentality will become cemented and it may become a permanent part of you until you die. The third thing is, because this is about correcting my bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I need to take inventory of where I stand right now. I can't ignore this. Where do I stand right now in regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's other commandments? So, another thing that Hajj isn't, I was saying Hajj is not this, it's not this. Hajj is also not an escape. It's not an escape from our duties and obligations. If a person, for example, has not been paying their zakat, Hajj is not an escape from zakat. Take inventory of your zakat and make sure you have been paying it, and if you haven't, then pay it now. It's not an escape for salat either. If you have missed obligatory prayers, start making up for them now. I'm not saying that don't go for Hajj unless you've made up for all of them, even though this is something very good. But some people have several years of missed salawat. They can't possibly do it all before Hajj, and the obligation of Hajj is there, so then they're compromising two obligations. Start now. Make a timetable, make some kind of a routine, make a program so that by such and such time you will have completed all those salawat. Similarly, it's not an escape from loans. If you owe someone, if there is a debt upon you, you need to clear that. Hajj will not. In fact, Nabi ﷺ says, يُغْفَرُ لِلشَّهِيدِ كُلُّ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا الدَّيْنِ. Even if a person dies in the path of Allah, everything is forgiven, but their debts are not forgiven. So clear your debts. Is there anything else in my deen that I need to repair? Start repairing it now. Fix it now before you go. This expectation that, okay, when I come back, then I will start fixing things, it doesn't happen. The time to start fixing is now. Broken relationships, fights, quarrels with family members, all of this needs to be repaired before we go. Hajj is not a substitute for that. If we are engaged in any unlawful transactions, such as interest-based transactions, get out of them before you go for Hajj. Hajj is not an escape. What is haram is haram. Resolve these things before you go. And if you can't, try to come up with a solution, some kind of interim solution. But don't stay where you are. Make some kind of a dramatic shift, a dramatic change in your life. Now, let's jump forward a little bit. Ibrahim alayhi salam. This house was re-erected by Ibrahim alayhi salam. Look at the sacrifices that Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam made before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announced that inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him in many, many ways. And his journey to Baytullah was a journey that consisted of all of those things that I just spoke about. He was running to Allah to please Allah. He had little or no consideration for his own comforts, his own needs, anything. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had stepped it up because of his status, his test was much more difficult. So he had to leave his family there and go back. And it was because of the sacrifices of that family that we have the rights of Hajj. At one point he comes back and starts raising Baytullah from its foundations. Most ulama are of the view that Adam alayhi salam is the one who actually laid the foundations of Baytullah. And Ibrahim alayhi salam re-erected it from there. He and his son are doing this. The son has also made immense sacrifices, including submitting to being slaughtered. And all of those things that we read about, that we hear about. So let's keep him in front of us and his mindset. It's about the mindset. I will do what it takes to please Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a command in the Quran. إِذْ قَالَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ أَسْلِمْ. O Ibrahim, submit. Ibrahim alayhi salam responds, أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I have submitted. It's that simple. Hajj can be simplified to this. أَسْلَمْتُ لِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I have submitted entirely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not keeping back anything for myself, in which my preferences or choices will rule. Everything is going to be, from this point on, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants is going to dictate what I do. If a Haji goes with this mindset, then it's not so much about the difficulties anymore. The difficulties become easy. In fact, the Haji takes it for granted that the difficulties are a part of this journey. And building our ta'alluq, our bond, our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by increasing our ibadah, becoming regular, not just regular in our salat, but for the men, becoming regular in praying with jama'ah. If you are regular in this, then extra ibadah, nawafil, getting up for tahajjud, and aside from tahajjud, praying your ishraq or salatul duha, and praying as much, increasing the intensity and the quantity of your ibadah before you go. The Haji that does this, they are ready to get to work as soon as they arrive for Hajj. The Haji that's not ready, that's not prepared for this, it's too overwhelming. And because it's a journey of ibadah, we need to get ourselves used to this. Otherwise, a lot of our time is going to go to waste. I'm just telling you things that I have learned, I've picked up through experience, as well as things that I have heard and learned from my elders. Hujjaj that are not in the habit of extra worship, don't do extra worship there. Hujjaj that are in the habit of using their spare time in idle things, they use their spare time in idle things over there as well. Because you don't transform all of a sudden. All you did was got on a plane, you left this place and you landed at that place, you're still the same person. Unless you decide to change, unless you start to change. So those people that have a habit, for example, just as an example, of always being on their devices, on their cell phones, guess what they're doing over there in the Haram of Makkah, in the Haram of Medina? Guess what's happening over there? First thing they'll do is they'll get a fancy data plan and, oh, I'm so happy, data is so cheap here in Saudi. Wow, amazing. Let's use it to death. So they're in the masjid of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they will be there on Facebook, on whatever it is that they use. In the hotel room, whiling away the time, talking to everyone and anyone, and now because everyone knows that they're there for Hajj, so the most important thing for them is to get the right selfies at the right locations with the right backgrounds. I'm telling you the ground realities of what's happening. But a person who exerts themselves, and you have right now the boost that you got from Ramadan to help you, use it to your advantage. Push yourself, exert yourself in the ibadah of Allah. Let go of irrelevant things from your lives. It will help you a great deal over there. Tilawat of Quran, increase your tilawat of Quran. We all had great opportunities to recite the Quran and do wonderful things in Ramadan. Keep the momentum going, don't let it fizzle out. And when you go there, it's like, when they say landing, hit the ground running, you will hit the ground running. You will not need any time. You will not have this lag time. Okay, I got here. Yeah, okay, I need to rest for a couple of days. Just trying to get oriented, just trying to figure out where everything is, and in the meantime, figuring out what are the best shopping spots, what are the best restaurants, You will not care about any of that. You will hit the ground running. Things will fall into place for you. You'll do what you need to for your needs. You'll find ways to do it in the most efficient way possible, using the least amount of time, least amount of energy, least amount of money, so you can use all of that for this treasure. The treasures of the Haramain, my teachers used to say, the treasures of the Haramain do not exist in the shops of the Haramain. The treasures of the Haramain exist in the masajid of the Haramain. In Al-Masjid al-Haram and Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, that is where the treasures of the Haramain are. If only people knew how to go and extract those treasures from there. In order to extract those treasures, you need to keep yourself there, place yourself there, and stay there day and night until your body is so exhausted that you can't sit anymore. Then you go and rest for a little while, and you come right back and get to it. This is the mindset that's required. Challenge yourself. How much Quran am I going to recite? How many nawafil am I going to pray? How much am I going to exhaust myself for the sake of Allah on this journey? Is everyone following? I'm telling you the core and the essence. I cannot emphasize it enough. If you have this, your Hajj is safe. If you don't have this, whether you're going to, I don't know what kind of packages the audience is going in, but there's all kinds of packages. You have the VIP packages, you have packages where your tents in Mina are right by the Jamarat, and you have packages in which the hotels are right in front of Al-Masjid al-Haram, in front of Baytullah, and very close to Al-Masjid al-Nabawi. None of that matters, I'm telling you. Those are conveniences and amenities. If you get them, alhamdulillah, be thankful that you have them. That is not a replacement for your own discipline and your own ethics when you get there. And there are two types of mindsets. There is an individual mindset and there's a group mindset. Sometimes the most dangerous mindset or the most powerful mindset is the group mindset. It sometimes just takes one person to say, you know what, I think I'm going to relax for the next day or so, for the next 24 hours, and then I'll slowly start easing into it. All of a sudden, because everyone heard it, it becomes everyone's mindset. And now even if you want to change that, it's very difficult, because routines are based around it. Timetables are based on it. When are you going to the haram? When are you not going to the haram? So be alert and be aware for these things. So this is about the mindset that's required in some of the spiritual preparation. Now there's another kind of preparation that I don't want to ignore, and that is the physical preparation. Hajj requires a significant amount of physical exertion. So here is some advice that I hope the brothers and sisters will take very, very seriously. Get your tests and your physical examinations done before you go. Find out if you are in the process of acquiring any illness, if you're displaying symptoms, signs of illness, or you've already had something that you're fighting, you're getting over something. Has your body recovered from it or not? If you're sick, what will it take? Get a clear idea of where you are physically. It's extremely important. Because if you go, and I'll talk about sickness in just a little while. Anyone can get sick, even the most healthy person can get sick anywhere in the world, in any journey, especially at Hajj. But don't set yourself up for it. Be proactive. So here's a few things that I can recommend. Aside from getting a proper medical checkup to find out where you are you healthy or not healthy, what is the situation? If you have a current medical condition, make sure you're on top of your medication and you're controlling it before you go. Don't go in a state where it's unstable. Be regular in your medication if you've been prescribed medication. Go and get medication if you need medication. Look after those things. The next thing is, start eating healthy and start exercising. And the most important exercise before you go for Hajj is walking. And it's something I recommend everyone, male, female, no matter how old, how young you are, if you're not used to walking, then Hajj becomes very, very difficult and arduous. And if you're used to walking, it makes it so much easier. Because believe me, you are going to walk, whether you like it or not. So get used to it. Otherwise, we go cold without this. Within half a day, your feet are so sore and blistered and aching, and your whole body is just falling apart. So walking, get yourself used to walking. And inshallah, if you do that, build it up, increase it. You should be able to walk, ideally speaking, you should be able to walk for at least an hour. Build it up so you can comfortably walk for an hour before you go. Why am I saying this? There's practical reasons. The walking that is involved in tawaf, everyone has to do it. Okay, if somebody is ma'adhur, if they can't walk normally here, they use some kind of support, they use some kind of wheelchair. Of course, they will be using that over there as well. That's fine. But if you're walking here, you don't want to go there and start using a wheelchair. But many people do. And by doing this, they diminish their own reward. Remember, this is about doing things the most perfect and the complete way. It's not about cutting corners. But there are people who are perfectly healthy. It's easy, you just rent a wheelchair. You can hire someone to do it for you, push you around. No. So tawaf, and you will not get to pick and choose how your tawaf is. You are going into a very huge, immense rush. There's going to be people, hundreds of thousands of people there at any given time. So sometimes your tawaf will be very, very long. You'll be going on the outer edges. And if you can't just walk, sometimes, to be very honest, sometimes during the season of Hajj, the tawaf takes 2 hours. That's just how it is. And sometimes you could do it in 40 minutes. And sometimes it's even quicker. But expect the crowds to be huge. Ridiculously huge. Expect the crowds to be like you've never imagined. What is sa'i? Sa'i is walking. Going back and forth, back and forth. These are just the two basic things of Hajj and Umrah. This is aside from walking to and from. This is aside from walking in Mina to the Jamarat and back. This is aside from whatever walking you may have to do in Muzdalifah. Sometimes, the last time we went, subhanAllah, we spent a couple of hours walking around Muzdalifah just because we had so many people, we had elderly, we had women, we were not able to find a proper spot, and there were all kinds of complications. It's walking. So get yourself used to walking. Do yourself a favor. Get yourself used to it. Okay? Get in the habit of, this is a recommendation, you don't have to, but start taking some good vitamin supplements to boost your system, to boost your immune system, to increase your body's capacity. Start eating healthy. Get rid of junk food. Get rid of stuff. You will not have all of these amenities there. You won't. So these are these are some basic things. Make sure your health is looked after. I've taken on some occasions Hujjaj with me who had serious health problems. They were not prepared for it, and they collapsed there. Some Hujjaj collapsed immediately after getting there. Some collapsed in the middle of Mina, in the midst of everything. We've seen a lot of different things. So please look after your health. And my request to anyone who is sick and going for Hajj, look, there's nothing wrong with going for Hajj if you're sick, but make sure it's safe. You need to be safe. At the very least, make sure you have somebody with you on your Hajj trip who can look after you. Because it's not fair to go with serious health conditions and then expect everyone in the group to look after you. This is not a reasonable expectation. So if you're going, you're sick, you need help, take someone with you. Make sure you have that person with you, that relative, that friend who's going to assist you through this process. All right. Let's talk about some of the basic nuts and bolts of Hajj. Some groups will go to Mecca first, other groups will start in Medina. Irrespective of where you're going first. The journey, from the time you leave your house, the journey itself must be within certain parameters. Because we're going to complete our deen. So make sure that our journey is a journey of obedience to Allah. It is not a journey of just enjoying ourselves and laughing, joking, entertainment. It should not be a journey in which we are entertaining ourselves. You know, the people of Ad, they also went to Baytullah to make dua. Big, powerful people of Ad. Hud alayhi salam went to them, invited them, reminded them. But, of course, they rejected his message. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested them by sending a huge drought. And that drought and famine, it lasted for a long time, through which their crops died. Their people became sick and weak, and people started dying. They did not have food. They were in a miserable state. So they said, let us go to Baytullah and make dua. So they went to Baytullah, but their journey, because they believed in Allah, but they also believed in idols. And their whole thing was that it was a sense of entitlement that we're going to go, we're going to make this dua, and we're going to get what we're asking for. They went with a sense of entitlement, not with a sense of fixing themselves, changing themselves, none of that. So they went entertaining, having parties, so much so that when they reached the area around Mecca, where they set camp, they were having parties there as well, drinking and wining and dining. And so, a man who lived in Mecca at that time, he sent his slave girls to go talk to them. And through couplets, they really admonished them. Then they came to their senses. Oh yeah, we're here to make dua for our people. Okay, let's go now. Let's go into Mecca and start making dua. So they made dua, but instead of getting clouds of rain like they were hoping for, they came back with a cloud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بَلْ هُوَ مَسْتَعْجَلْتُمْ بِهِ رِيحٌ فِيهَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. This was a cloud that unleashed a wind that had never been unleashed before. And it wreaked havoc over them for days and left them toppled over like dead tree trunks. So they also went to Baytullah. So let us commence the journey on the step of piety. Read the du'as, because part of completion of deen is adopting the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Our safar should be in the masnoon way, reading the masnoon du'as. And one of the du'as Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to make during journey, Allahumma inna nas'aluka fi safarina hadha al-birra wa taqwa wa min al-amali ma tarda. Oh Allah, we ask you in this journey that you give us the ability to be dutiful and pious and do those acts which please you. So keep in mind these things. Engage, remain engaged in the dhikr of Allah. Keep beneficial books with you. Books that teach how to do Hajj, books of the Fadail of Hajj. And one of the books that I recommend everyone to read is the book Fazail Hajj itself, by Shaykh Muhammad Zakaria rahimahullah. It's a beautiful book. It doesn't just have the Fadail of Hajj, but it has many, many stories of Hujjaj. And what Hajj can do for a person. And it has many of the etiquettes and the adab. And this book actually should be read from now up to Hajj. So keeping these kinds of beneficial books with you will help. Stay away from entertainment on the planes or on your devices. It's not tourism. So let's keep ourselves dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Reading Quran, doing dhikr, and your du'as are accepted, A, because you are a musafir, and secondly, because you're in the path of Allah, you're coming for Hajj. One hadith says that the people that come from Hajj, for Hajj and for Umrah, they are wafdullah, they are the delegations coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in fact, those of you who are going for Hajj from various locations, you are representing your communities, your places at Baytullah. You are our representatives there. You are the representatives of the ummah from where you are coming at the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So be mindful of this. Now here's where things get very interesting. There's one thing that you need to take with you. It's probably the most important supply that you could take with you on this journey, aside from what I've told you. And that is called sabr. You need to take a huge amount of sabr with you. More sabr than you've ever used before. Make sure you stock up and take it with you on this trip, because it will come in handier than anything else. It doesn't matter whether you're flying first class or last class. It doesn't matter. Take sabr with you. Doesn't matter what kind of package, and it does not matter how much you've paid. I'm sorry. You will need sabr. And while arrangements are made, and good groups are usually on top of things, a good group is a group that has things very, very well organized. They're able to see circumstances in light of experiences and deal with them proactively. Things go wrong, they know how to deal with them, but things will go wrong. You can plan for things to go right, but be prepared for nothing to work. This is what I advise people. Plan for everything to work. And do plan, don't do things haphazardly, but be prepared for nothing to happen as planned. I know it sounds contradictory, but this is the reality of Hajj. Every group puts in a lot of planning. Immense amounts of planning, but you know what? There are many things that are above and beyond that planning that nobody can account for. The government might introduce a new rule. Might be something to do with the airlines. There might be something to do with transport. Your bus could break down. It doesn't matter even if it's a new bus. Anything could happen. The one thing that will help you more than anything else is sabr. Sometimes we go with a sense of entitlement, but we also go as very, very smart people, and we say, oh, they should have just done this, and why don't they just do this, and why don't they? We've got so much to say because we know it all, because we're from the West. You know what? We don't know it all. There are many things that are beyond anyone's capacity. So please, take a lot of sabr with you. And it's not just about the organizers of the groups. It could be somebody, it could be a local authority that you might be tested with and you'll need patience. It could be members of your own group. Somebody's acting obnoxiously, somebody's doing something silly, somebody's irritating you, or somebody has a problem that they can't quite do anything about. It's affecting you, you're going to need patience. Okay, those of you that are going in quad rooms, or dual rooms or triple rooms, you might have somebody with a health condition. You might just have someone who snores a lot and they can't do anything about it. You know, things happen. There might be times when you don't get your meal on time. There might be things that go completely, they spin completely out of control. It's no one, it doesn't have to be, in some cases it is someone's fault, but in many cases, it's not, it really isn't, and sometimes it's really hard to believe, but some things just aren't anyone's fault. It's just taqdeer, it's just Hajj. So be ready for that. Now, when you arrive, make sure that if you are going, in any event when you are going towards Makkah, make sure you are in a state of ihram. Anyone who goes towards Makkah from outside needs to be in a state of ihram before they cross the miqat. And you probably already learned this, but the time to put on your ihram, or the last opportunity you have to put on your ihram is the last stop before Jeddah, if you're going to be landing in Jeddah. If you're going towards Medina, it's okay. If you're going to land in Jeddah and then take a flight directly without getting out, you're going to land at Jeddah and then go to Medina first, that's your route, then you don't need to be in a state of ihram. But in any case where you are going to Makkah, you need to be in a state of ihram before you reach the miqat, and the pilots will announce it on the plane that we are, for example, in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we're going to cross the miqat. So you prepare yourself, make sure all of your things are ready, and at that time when you cross the miqat, you can start saying your labbaik. You can start your talbiyah. From the miqat, you make your intention. So ihram consists of a few things. First of all, understand that ihram is a state. Ihram is a state that we enter. The clothing for men are a part of that state, but the clothing itself is not ihram. Ihram is a state that we enter. And there will be different intentions that you make. So, depending on where you're coming from and what you're about to do, there'll be different intentions. If you're coming before the Hajj season and you're going to Makkah, and then it's possible that you're going to go to Medina later on by bus, and then come back for Hajj, some groups do that, your ihram is just going to be for Umrah. It's just Umrah. When you come back from Medina, if that's what you're going to do, go to Makkah to Medina and then back. Then when you leave Medina, then you will make the intention for the other types of ihram, which I'm going to come to. If you're coming straight, somebody is going straight to Jeddah, and it's the season of Hajj, they're going to perform their Hajj now, then what kind of Hajj are you performing? Is it ifrad, where you're just doing Hajj? You're just going to go straight to Arafat, straight to Mina rather, and then start your Hajj? Is that the type of Hajj you're doing? Or are you going to do Umrah first? If you're going to do Umrah first, then are you going to become halal, meaning come out of your ihram? Or are you going to, with the same ihram, go for Hajj? Most people have a little bit of a window. They'll perform Umrah, then they'll become halal, and then they'll put on a new ihram for Hajj. This is called tamattu'. This is the most common ihram that people use, most common intention. Tamatta'a means to take advantage. Here, taking advantage of doing Umrah and Hajj in one trip to Makkah, with the advantage also of becoming halal in between, so there's no restrictions of ihram on you. So for example, somebody arrives at Makkah 5 days before Hajj. Now this doesn't matter whether you're going from your country or you're going from Medina. You're arriving before Hajj, you have time to perform Umrah, and some people, they want to do more than one Umrah. But the point is that you're going to do Umrah and then you're going to come out of the ihram, which means you will cut your hair and you'll come back into regular clothing, and then you will perform your Hajj at a later date, a few days later. This is tamattu'. The other type of ihram is called qiran, when you're doing Umrah and Hajj together with the same ihram. Now this, according to many fuqaha, this type of Hajj is more rewarding because it's harder. But emphasis on the fact that it is harder. Why? Because you will come into Makkah, you will perform Umrah, and you will stay in the same ihram. You will not become halal. So all the restrictions of ihram will remain as long as you are in that state. With the same ihram, you will go to Mina on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. So it's tougher. So depending on what intention you have, what plan you have, and if you're not sure, then speak to your group leaders, and as well as any ulama that may be accompanying you. Just ask them if you need clarity on it. But generally speaking, even if you have like a one-day window between reaching Makkah and the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, most groups will opt for tamattu'. This is generally the case. Some individuals will opt for qiran. Don't do qiran unless you're ready for it, you understand what it involves. So limitations of ihram, very, very quickly. I'm not going to go into too much detail because you won't remember it all right now either. And you'll need to refresh this before you go. So remember we talked about the essence of Hajj is that a person is running towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with little or no care for their own conveniences. Ihram is a representation of that state. Ihram is that state put on display. Clothing for men is simple, 2 sheets. Ideally they should be white. And during this state, we don't cut our nails, we don't cut our hair, or shave any part of our hair. During this time, we do not apply any perfume. We do not use any perfume substances. In fact, according to many jurists, to deliberately go and start smelling perfume also, this needs to be avoided. Okay, it will not break your ihram, but it is makruh in ihram to deliberately go in, because it's a sense of you enjoy perfume, and this is not about enjoying ourselves. And we do not wear, the muhrim man will not wear any stitched clothing in this state. Okay, ihram itself is unstitched cloth. It is not to be stitched. Some people have allowed putting buttons and things like that on it. It's iffy. At the very least, it's away from the sunnah. So keep this in your mind that you want your Hajj to be as close to sunnah as possible, and compromise your conveniences where you have to. Many people are not in the habit of tying, especially the lower cloth of ihram. Start practicing now. Start practicing now, you will get used to it. It's not that complicated, but you should practice. Those who go unprepared, it's like complete shock. They're like, what's going on here? And they're not able to manage it. They're not able to put it on properly, and they're not able to manage it either. It becomes very difficult. So a little bit of practice is good. There's no harm if a few Hujjaj get together and just practice it. So for those that are not used to it, in some cultures, tying a lungi, it's an everyday thing. So ihram it's simple. It's just like their normal dress. So the simple dress, the head is not covered, the face is not covered. Now, what if somebody's face is covered when they go to sleep? So by deliberation, you should not cover your face. If your face happens to get covered by a blanket, for example, while you're sleeping, then what happens? If it was covered for the whole duration of the night, then there will be a dam. Dam means you need to sacrifice an animal. But if it was covered for a little while, there is no dam in this. If you want, you can give some sadaqah. That's fine. But there is nothing wajib on this. Similarly, if a person breaks off a nail, so you don't have to give dam for this, but you should give some sadaqah. Some people have a habit of biting their nails. Okay, if you happen to bite a nail, then just give some sadaqah. And it's not predetermined, it has to be this much, just give some sadaqah. Whatever comes to your heart, it's good enough. Same thing with if you apply perfume. If you apply perfume to one whole hand, and that includes, be very careful, this includes perfumed soaps, so you need to make sure you take unscented soap. Don't rely on the soaps that are given out at hotels there. In many cases, they will be scented. So try to arrange for your own unscented soap and keep that with you. There is nothing wrong with a Haji taking a bath, taking a shower. Just try to make sure that you're not pulling out hair unnecessarily. If you happen to pull out some hair mistakenly, there's nothing in this. If you give some sadaqah, that's okay. If you start pulling it out on purpose, then this is a problem. Then you should definitely give sadaqah. But if you shave a part of your body or cut the hair of a part of the body, then this will result in a dam. Again, an animal that has to be sacrificed. And the brothers that take you, they will explain to you how this dam is paid. I'll just summarize it for you very quickly. There are two ways to give dam. One is through the official channels. They'll have booths there. They'll have booths for people upon whom dam is wajib, and they'll tell you that, okay, this is what happens, this is the process. You will go, you will pay them, they'll give you a receipt and all of that, and they'll say, okay, fine, your animal will be slaughtered at such and such, in such and such way, basically, and it's done. Some people, they know people over there. And so they'll reach out to them. These are people who have animals for this purpose. So this is another way in which it is done. Just make sure that the animal is slaughtered. There is actually an animal that's being slaughtered, and it's slaughtered there in the precinct of Makkah, within the limits of the Haram. Okay? So let's say somebody made the intention of tamattu'. What should they say, or what should they be thinking? So when putting on their ihram, they make the intention that, oh Allah, I have made the intention of Umrah, so please make it easy for me and accept it from me. You can say it in any language. You can say it in any language. Your niyat is of tamattu'. You can say if you want, oh Allah, I've intended to make Umrah and Hajj, so accept it from me, make it easy for me and accept it from me. But at this point, you're only performing Umrah, so keep the intention of Umrah. Once, the moment you make this intention, now there are words in Arabic like the sunnah, the masnoon words. If you can learn those words, this is very great. In some ahadith, it's very simple. Labbaik Allahumma umrah. Oh Allah, labbaik with the umrah. And in the books of fiqh, Allahumma inni uridu al-umrata fayassirha li wa taqabbalha minni. These words, along with labbaik. The point is, you make the intention, say the words in whatever language you can, and then start saying labbaik. Okay, the talbiyah is basically, it secures your state of ihram. Now you are officially and completely in the state of ihram. For those of you who are putting on ihram at an actual location and not on the plane, then pray 2 rakats of ihram, this is sunnah, and then make your intention and start your talbiyah, start labbaik. Okay? If you're doing it on the plane, then yes, you can sit and pray nawafil. You can pray your nawafil before you cross the miqat. Then when they announce it, then you can make your intention and labbaik. Learn the words of labbaik. The words of labbaik are very, very powerful words. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik, innal hamda wal ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. This is the complete talbiyah. If you would like to be able to recite it easily, then write it down, keep it with you, practice it from here before you go. I remembered a story that one Shaykh was telling us, that there was a group that went for Hajj, and there was, at the end of the group, now you have somebody, the guide is taking everyone, for tawaf, and they're going towards Baytullah, and they're going to now make this, they're about to go and do their tawaf. So the leader, the mutawwif at the front, he's saying labbaik, and people behind him are, kind of copying him. He's saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. People behind him are saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. But there's an old Haji Sahib at the very back, he can't really hear properly. He's at the back of the group. The group leader is way at the front. He can't really hear, and he hasn't learned it either. But he's kind of hearing something. Now he's from India, from Pakistan, and he's saying whatever he can make out. So the Hujjaj are all saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and he's saying nambarik Allahumma nambarik. So learn your talbiyah. Learn your talbiyah. From the moment you start ihram, you enter into ihram, this is a very specific state. Ihram means you have made things haram. So in this, you are careful about the way you speak. You are careful about the things that you speak about. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, a person who goes for Hajj, فَلَمْ يَرْفُثْ وَلَمْ يَفْسُقْ, does not engage in any act of indecency. This means obviously engaging in relations between husband and wife. This will break the ihram, and this will result in a major dam. But even talking about these things, will not talk about it. Does not talk about anything indecent, and does not commit any sin. رَجَعَكَ يَوْمٍ وَلَدَتْهُ أُمُّهُ. This is the Haji that will come back like the day his mother gave birth to him. Cleansed of sins, completely washed. So we have to be very, very careful. And aside from the restrictions of ihram, we need to be, and again, sabr. Sometimes Hujjaj lose it. They lose it. And you can see that, look, there are many things building up. The journey, then the exhaustion of the journey, you're out of your element. All of a sudden, the change of climate, you're dehydrated, you're tired, you haven't slept for a couple of days, your body is just aching. And then you might have some dependents. Somebody has parents with them, somebody has children with them, somebody has their wife with them. Same thing for the sisters. They're trying to deal with so many things. And then delays and delays. Sometimes it'll take you hours. I have seen groups stuck at Jeddah airport. They've landed in a state of ihram. They're stuck there for 12, 13 hours. Happens. Like I said, you plan everything, but don't expect anything to go exactly as planned. Be prepared for nothing to go as planned. Now, whose fault was that? Nobody's fault. 12, 13. In fact, one group was there for 16 hours. Can you imagine, after having traveled from a place like Canada or the States, you've traveled for 30 some hours, and you've gotten there, and you just want to crash. You want to lie down somewhere. You can't. There is no place to lie. There's nothing. So these types of things happen. So in any case, if you are landing at Jeddah, or whether you're coming from Medina in a state of ihram, be careful of what you say. And another thing is that we should have a great deal of reverence and respect in our hearts for the people of Mecca and Medina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given these people an opportunity to be the neighbors of His house, and in Medina the neighbors of His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In our heart, we should have a great deal of respect and reverence just for this fact. And please don't do what a lot of people do, and that is the whole time they're just talking about how bad the government is, how bad the people are, about this, about that. Please don't do this. I remember once we had just finished Hajj and we were going to Medina, and there were two Hujjaj sitting in front of me. The whole journey on the bus, all they did was talk about the Saudi government. The whole time. And how, what they thought of the Saudi people and their attitude and their behavior and this and this. And I said, Ya Allah, you've just performed Hajj. Why? So please, we're not there to talk about these things. We're not there to look at people's faults. And the fact is that everyone should know that what these people are doing for the Hujjaj, no one in the world can do. The arrangements that they have in place, the level of dedication and sincerity, they do this. And remember, these people have been doing this since the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Those are the same people that have been hosting the Hujjaj of the world since that time. These are the children of Ismail alayhi salam. So don't look at their faults. And remember, no matter what you see, you should know that no one can do it better than them. There is no nation in the world that can do it better than what they're doing right now. And the amount of infrastructure, the amount of arrangements, the amount of amenities that they supply, it's unbelievable. And don't think for a minute that those people, as a government or as people, make any money out of Hajj. That government does not make anything out of Hajj. This is a deception. They spend and spend and spend and spend. May Allah reward them for it. You have to give credit where credit is deserved, and this is a place where credit is most deserved. And we've seen over the last 20, 25 years how much work they have put into just making it better. Every year they're making it, every year they're adding new things, more facilities, more facilities, more facilities. May Allah reward them. So, this is also an act of fisq. It's an act of disobedience that we're talking bad about people. So we're not going to do this. Now, when you get into Makkah, the first thing you want to do is make sure that your things are sorted out. That means, and it's different with various groups, sometimes you have to stop somewhere and submit your passports. If that needs to happen, let it happen. Sometimes you're going to your hotel, traffic is jam-packed, gridlocked, you can't move. That's fine, khalas. When that happens, just make sure you're praying on time. Try to get off the bus and pray, and try your very best to just make sure that this is looked after. Otherwise, don't rush to the haram, because that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to want to rush to the haram. Make sure your things are looked after. Make sure your hotel room is sorted out. Don't go running off just like that. Your hotel room is looked after. People that are with you, they're looked after. Make sure everything is taken care of. And if your body is falling apart because of exhaustion, you do not want to go into the haram in that state. Rest. It's okay. It's not sinful. And it doesn't diminish anything of your love either. But yes, one thing, do not compromise. And that is, when entering Makkatul Mukarramah, make sure you're entering with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With takbir, tahleel, saying la ilaha illallah, saying Allahu Akbar. Of course, labbaik for the haji, for the muhrim, the biggest dhikr is labbaik, the talbiyah. Repeating, some people, they do it for a couple of minutes, then they leave it. You should be doing, in fact, one hadith says, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, that the best hajj is al-ajj al-thajj. That hajj in which your mouth gets the driest from saying labbaik, and that in which you slaughter the most animals. So, the talbiyah, and inside we should have the reverence that I don't deserve to be here. Allah has honored me by bringing me here. There is nothing that I have done in my life that would entitle me to being here, but this is only His grace, His mercy, that He's allowed me to come. So with this mindset, belittling ourselves and glorifying Allah for bringing us, we enter this most sacred place on the planet. And like this we will go, sort out our things. Once you're ready, you come for your umrah. Now, circumstances will vary. Different people arriving at different times, under different conditions. Once things are sorted out, you make your way. You continue your talbiyah, enter the masjid with due etiquette. If you can find Babu Salam, then alhamdulillah, enter it. Otherwise, with the amount of rush, I don't suggest you go and try on your first approach to try to explore. If you have someone who can take you straight there in your group, fine. Otherwise, enter from the entrance. Some groups, they have a designated entrance and exit. You'll always go from there and come back from there. Follow those instructions, it's better for you. Enter the masjid with your right foot. Don't enter in a state of carelessness. There should be dhikr on your tongue, and humility in the heart. Recite the dua of the masjid. And what a lot of people like to do is they stand for a little while and make dua. Now this is something that, it's a practice that you can't condemn it, and you can't really prove it either. But a lot of people say that you should stand and make dua, and the fact is that you feel like it. And it's hard to stand there and see Baytullah for the first time and not shed a few tears. So give yourself that time. You don't have to, there isn't a fixed template that you have to follow. A lot of these things are just, they come out of the heart. Okay, as long as you're not breaking any etiquettes or doing anything inappropriate there. So you will go, if you want, you make dua for a little while. And then once you get into the masjid, if it's not time for fard salat and the sufuf and all of those things are not formed, try to get into the mataf as best as you can on whichever floor you can. They will regulate it. Sometimes you will be able to get onto the main floor, sometimes you just won't. They will be redirecting everyone to the upper levels. Wherever you find space. If it's not time for a fard salat, the tahiyyatul masjid for al-masjid al-haram is not 2 rak'ats. The tahiyyah of al-masjid al-haram is tawaf. So you will commence your tawaf of umrah right away. That is your tahiyyah. And subsequently, in case I forget to mention afterwards, the greatest ibadah in al-masjid al-haram is tawaf. Instead of going and praying nawafil, go and perform tawaf. Now look, again, things like health, capacity need to be considered. If you can, I would suggest at least do 1 tawaf a day, at the very least. Some people have himmah to do more, but don't give all your energy now and then collapse 2 days later and then you don't even have energy to go for Hajj. So don't overtax yourself. But this is part of the etiquette of being in al-Masjid al-Haram, that you want to perform as much tawaf as you can. So you will start with tawaf. I'll just give you some very basic guidelines, things that I hope you'll be easy to remember. Tawaf begins and ends with al-Hajar al-Aswad. Now the logistics of that have been changing. They've been evolving from time to time. So initially there used to be a black strip right on the marble where you just go and line yourself up and you start. They've removed that black strip a long time ago. So they have lights. They have green lights that are in line with the Al-Hajar al-Aswad, and you'll see them on all the levels. That's basically where you want. Now, ideally, you want to come and stand in front of Al-Hajar al-Aswad exactly, but it may be difficult to stand directly under the green light. That's indicating that you're now directly in front of it at like what you can say a 0-degree angle. It doesn't have to be a 0-degree angle. Okay, try to make it as close as you can. In fact, in some cases there'll be such a rush where you are that people won't even let you stop. The crowd will just keep carrying you. But if you can, you should stop and at least try with your very best to face Al-Hajar al-Aswad and do istilam. Do istilam. Now, how did our Prophet ﷺ used to do istilam? Of course, he used to go up and kiss Al-Hajar al-Aswad. Okay? Don't try to kiss Al-Hajar al-Aswad when there's a crowd, because you will likely hurt yourself and hurt other people as well. Sometimes you get too caught up in the emotions of it. It happens to a lot of people. But remember that the worst place to sin is that place that you're standing right now. It is the worst place. And if hurting someone is a sin anywhere in the world, it's a much more severe sin over there. And request to sisters especially, look, all our lives we observe a respectful distance from men in our deen. We don't rub shoulders with them. We don't collide into them. We don't stand next to them with our bodies touching. Why would you do that there? Don't do that there. Aisha radiallahu anha used to perform tawaf outside. In fact, she would go and do tawaf only at night. And for her, they would actually dim the lanterns of Al-Masjid al-Haram. One of her servant girls went in and made tawaf. She got so upset at her that, what is wrong with you? Because of the strong presence of males and the strong possibility of bodies rubbing against each other. You don't do that. Those of us that are taking our women folk, we need to be with them and make sure that their tawaf is done in the best way possible. So don't go trying to push into that, the throng of people. It's not a good practice. And I have seen some people do some amazingly ridiculous things there that I could not imagine any person doing, but people change when their emotions are high. There was a group of friends that I saw. I'm doing tawaf in the mataf, and there's 3 of them, and they're getting closer and closer, and so at the point in front of Al-Hajar al-Aswad, they're like, we need to go in, and they're talking about it, and then one of them, I guess who was the most zealous to do this, he had his friends hoist him on their shoulders. So they both picked him up on their shoulders, and it was like a big heave-ho, 1, 2, 3, and they launched him over the heads of people. This is a good, well-built man. And they launched him over the heads of people. And what do you think he fell on? He fell on the necks of people. And the first person that I saw him fall on was an elderly lady. Her neck just bent and she crumbled under him. And this person, in all their foolishness, didn't stop. They continued to push through, and he made it to Al-Hajar al-Aswad, pushed everyone aside. Like I said, he was a well-built guy. He kissed it, and then he raised his fist like he had just scored a goal that won the World Cup. He was doing this at Al-Hajar al-Aswad. So, people do some amazingly foolish things. All of this is going to remove the reward and diminish the reward. So please be careful and please be respectful of the place first, and of course of everyone else. So face Al-Hajar al-Aswad, do istilam. Now there's a few ways that you can do istilam. You'll see people doing it in different ways. Okay? Ideally we should be facing towards it, and raise your hands and point towards it. This is the ideal way. Why do I say this? Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, on occasions when he was doing tawaf, sometimes he would do istilam with his stick. So he did istilam with him, pointed his stick and then kissed the tip of his stick. So there is nothing wrong with doing this and kissing your hands. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to. If you just do this is also fine. Okay? Bismillah Allahu Akbar, this is good enough. Bismillah Allahu Akbar wa lillahi alhamd, this is also okay. Okay? Some people, they just wave. They just walk by and they just give it a little wave and they keep going. They don't even turn towards it. This is incorrect. This is against the sunnah. Okay? So try to face it as best as you can, but be respectful of the traffic and the movement of people also. Alright? Now you start your tawaf. A couple of things, a couple of pointers for your tawaf. Tawaf is ibadah. You're in a state of ibadah. So don't make it a time when you're chatting with people. You're having conversation. Yes, if you need to speak something very important, you can speak. It doesn't break your tawaf. But remember, your dua is accepted. You're walking around Baytullah. You have the highest opportunity to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it should be a walk of humility. It should be a walk of humility, except for the first 3 rounds. This is for men. If you're going to do a sa'i after that, for example, your tawaf of umrah, then there are 2 things that the men will do. So the first thing is ramal. And ramal means to walk in short, quick steps, kind of like an army march. But doesn't mean, ramal does not equate to running. It's not running. It's walking quickly with short, quick steps and moving your hands. This is ramal. And that is done for only the first 3 rounds out of the 7. Okay? The second thing that men will do is ittiba'. And ittiba' means that you will bare your right shoulder and you'll have your ihram cloth, the upper cloth, just over your left one. And this will be bare. And this will be for the whole tawaf until you complete all 7. But generally speaking, we should be humble. Our tongue should be engaged in either dhikr or dua. It's a beautiful time to make dua. And according to Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayh, it's preferable to recite Quran at that time. There's nothing wrong with reciting Quran at that time as well. And you'll see many people doing this. You'll see some people with mushafs. That's fine. The point is, engage in the dhikr of Allah. Couple of very important things for tawaf. Tawaf is only done, and only that part of tawaf is valid in which your left shoulder is facing towards Baytullah. This is very important. In other words, if you are facing Baytullah and walking sideways, according to the Ahnaf, that part of your tawaf is not even done. The left shoulder needs to be done. In fact, if that happens, you're facing Baytullah, go back and repeat that portion. So, tawaf is done with your left. The other thing is, don't look at the Kaaba during tawaf. This is against the etiquettes of tawaf. Look at it before as much as you want. Look at it when you're doing istilam. Look at it after. But during tawaf, look straight ahead, look down, engage in dua as much as possible. Okay? It's not sunnah to be doing tawaf like this. The other thing is that the curtains of the Kaaba, some of you may have an opportunity to touch the curtains of the Kaaba. When you are in a state of ihram, don't do that, because the curtains of the Kaaba are perfumed. Okay? In your normal tawaf, like your nafil tawaf that you're just doing as your daily routine there's no harm in touching the curtain of the Kaaba. Okay? And in your tawaf, if you happen to find a spot at multazam, and multazam is the place underneath the door, right beneath the door of the Kaaba, that is not, you'll see there's just stone, there's no curtain there. Multazam means the place where you attach yourself to. So, if Allah gives you a chance and you can get there, try to go there. It's a place of dua. Hold on to the doorstep of Baytullah and attach yourself there and make dua. On the north side of the Kaaba, you'll see a half circle. This is called the hatim. The tawaf needs to be outside that. Okay? Because that is actually a part of the Kaaba. If somebody were to cut across, their tawaf would not be valid. Alright? So, once you've come around, now, Ar-Rukn al-Yamani. Rukn al-Yamani is the last corner of Baytullah before Al-Hajj al-Aswad comes again. Okay? According to some Ayyimah, you should do istilam of that. According to Ahnaf, you don't do istilam of it. If you're close to it, touch it. If you're not within touching distance, just walk by it. That last wall that you cover between Ar-Rukn al-Yamani and Al-Hajj al-Aswad, in this, it is mentioned in hadith, Nabi ﷺ used to recite this dua, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. So it's good practice to read. This is the only masnoon dua that we find from tawaf. In many books, you'll find, okay, for first tawaf, make this dua, second one, this dua, this. None of these are established in sunnah. You make any dua that you want. But for this part, it's mentioned in hadith, that last stretch, right before Hajj al-Aswad, Nabi ﷺ has made this dua, so we should also try to make this dua. So every time we get to Al-Hajj al-Aswad, we make istilam. We begin with istilam, we end each tawaf with istilam, or start the next tawaf with istilam, and when we finish all 7, then again we make istilam. Now the next thing that we have to do is we need to pray 2 rakats. We need to pray 2 rakats of ihram, which are in fact wajib. So, ideally, in an ideal situation, which it will not be, we're supposed to pray close to Maqam Ibrahim. You can pray anywhere in Al-Masjid Al-Haram. Just pray anywhere. Generally speaking, because you'll end at Al-Hajj al-Aswad, so it will be in the direction around Maqam Ibrahim, depending on how much space there is for salat, because a lot of the area will be utilized for tawaf. Okay? Then what you want to do is go and drink some Zamzam. Now back in the day, the well of Zamzam was right in the mataf itself. You just go down, there's stairs, you go down and there's taps, mashallah, and you drink as much as you want, you splash Zamzam on yourself, but that was finished a long time ago. Now the only thing that we have are these stations with the coolers, and they have Zamzam. So drink, after your 2 rakats, you go and drink some Zamzam, drink as much as you want, and of course drinking Zamzam is also an occasion when dua is accepted. So all of these occasions, of course, during tawaf, before tawaf, after these 2 rakats, and at the time of drinking Zamzam, and make as much dua as you can, drink as much Zamzam as you can, then you will make your way towards Safa for Sa'i, which is the next major portion. Now look, if you're extremely tired, you need to take a little break. There's nothing wrong with that. Take a little break, rest your legs, especially if you have elderly people with you. A couple of pointers. What I suggest, I don't know if there's any group leaders here, but what I normally suggest and what I normally do is for the first tawaf of the trip, I will usually take people with me or make sure they're with someone very experienced, just so that they understand how things work in there and what the layout is, so that people don't get too overly confused. If you have elderly people, weak people with you, if you have sisters with you, children with you, please keep them very, very close to you. It's very hard to find people there. The only recourse is to make sure that the people that you're supposed to be looking after, they're very, very close to you the whole time. And sometimes, in consideration for those, you'll need to slow things down. And that's perfectly fine. Slow things down. Take your time. Let people catch up. Don't rush through everything. Yes, if the people that are with you, they're at the same pace, then alhamdulillah, then that's up to you. So if you're extremely exhausted or the people that you need to do umrah with are tired, take a break, no problem. If a salat comes in between, even during tawaf, you stop where you are, you pray your salat and you continue your tawaf. Sa'i between Safa and Marwa. Before you start that, you will go up to where Safa is, depending on which floor you're doing it on. Go to where Safa is, face Baytullah, raise your hands and make dua. This is the sunnah. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said while going, he said, نَبْدَأُ مِمَا بَدَأَ اللَّهُ بِهِ إِنَّ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَةَ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ. He recited this. We begin with what Allah began with. Allah mentioned Safa before Marwa. So we start from Safa, turn towards Baytullah, make dua. One thing I will advise you is a lot of people, they stand right in the way where people are still coming. So stand behind, stand to the side. There's a lot of areas, if you look around, you'll find a nice quiet spot. Make dua as much as you can, and then you start your sa'i. Now, sa'i again, it's walking between Safa and Marwa. The points are very well indicated, and you'll see all the traffic going in that direction. There are middle lanes for wheelchair people. So you will walk at a comfortable pace. There are the milain akhdarain, the green indicators that are marked by lights, green lights in between. This was where the valley part was, where Hajar alayha ridwan could not see Ismail alayhi salam because the ground was lower. So she rushed quickly so she could get to that part where it was a little bit raised so she could see her son. So that place, the sunnah is to walk a little bit quicker. Some fuqaha have mentioned that this is for men. Don't exert women, don't make women run at that place, and some have discouraged it. Some have said that it is makruh. But in any case, you'll see people, a lot of people trying to do it. Idea is it's not a sprint, it's not a race, it's just going a little bit quicker. And then again you go, same thing happens on Marwa. When you get to Marwa, you will turn towards Baytullah, make dua. Keep in mind your own energy levels, your own stamina. And again, you keep going. So the sa'i begins at Safa, it will end at Marwa. Now there's a couple of things that I must mention, especially for the brothers. Look, in coming out of ihram, if you're doing tamattu, you're coming out of ihram, then you will cut your hair as basically the first thing you will do before you become halal. Now you will find people there, guys with little scissors in their hands. They'll be renting them out for like 5 riyals each. And you'll see people becoming halal in this way, where they'll just snip a couple of hairs from here, a couple of hairs from there, and that's it, and they'll say, you're halal. This is completely against sunnah, and in fact, from many perspectives, it looks like a mockery of the sunnah. Taqsir or qasr means that you are trimming the hair from all of the areas of the head. Okay? So do it properly. Remember, it's about doing it properly. It's not about looking for shortcuts or ways around it. This is not the sunnah, it's against the sunnah. And you're not supposed to be doing it there either. It's illegal to do it there, but people are doing it there anyways. Go to a barber, pay the money. These are manasik, these are ibadat. Every penny that you spend, you're getting rewarded for it, so do it properly. So now whether you get your hair trimmed or you get it shaved, halq is afdal. It is more rewarding. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua 3 times for those who shave their heads and once for those who trim their heads. In any case, if somebody is trimming it, don't look down at them that they're doing something wrong, because they're not. This is also allowed. But whatever it is, it needs to be trimmed from the whole head. Trim the whole head. And if it's halq, obviously it's going to be of the whole head. And once you have done this, now you can go back to your hotel, you can shower, you can change into regular clothes. And from this point onwards, if you are there until Hajj, your main occupation should be spend time in al-Masjid al-Haram for ibadah. Do as much tawaf as you can. When not doing tawaf, engage in salat, engage in tilawat of Quran, in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try to make the mizaj of the group such that everyone's motivated to just stay in the haram. Everything is in the haram. Everything that we're going for, we'll get it from the haram. That's really what it's about. And we should discourage ourselves. It's hard to say it to the next person, but I can say it generally to the whole audience, and we can speak to ourselves that, look, we want to minimize the amount of time we spend in the shops and in the marketplaces. Because once you go, there's no end to it, honestly. There is no end. Yes, people will have asked you, or there's things that you have in mind, whatever it is, do it in the quickest, shortest, most efficient way possible and get on with it. That's not what you are there for. It is not a shopping trip. Remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only gives reward according to intention. If somebody has it in their intention that they're going to do this, well then that's their worldly objective, but then they shouldn't hope that Allah is going to reward them for it. Right? So spend your time in this way. I'm going to fast forward now to Hajj very quickly. I like to give a very short account of Hajj because people are not able to remember all the details. So here is what you absolutely need to know about the rites of Hajj. The 8th of Dhul Hijjah, Yawm al-Tarwiyah. It's called Yawm al-Tarwiyah because that was the day where people used to stock up on water for themselves, for their animals, for the next few days. So on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, we need to be in Mina before Dhuhr. Many groups will leave on the 7th in the evening, at night time. There's nothing wrong with that for logistical purposes. And remember that a lot of the logistics are affected by how the government is regulating the movement of the Hujjaj. So we'll go with whatever it is planned, but basically everyone, it's designed in such a way that everyone gets to Mina before Dhuhr. Get yourself settled, travel light during these days. There are some things, I hope the groups have a list of things that the Hujjaj need. I don't have time to go into all the details of everything you will need, but keep it light and make sure you have your essentials. You will pray Dhuhr there. If you are praying with the Imam of Hajj in Masjid al-Khayf, then according to Ahnaf, you'll do Jama' Bain al-Dhuhr wal-Asr, you'll pray Dhuhr and Asr together. If you're praying in your own tent, according to Ahnaf, you will pray each Salat in its own time. Okay? So, there's no specific activity to do in Mina other than try to engage in ibadah and try to abstain from irrelevant talk. Many groups have programs, they have speakers coming and talking, and all of this is fine. Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, Fajr. All of this will be in Mina. Some groups may leave earlier. Some groups, it may be decided for them to leave before Fajr for Arafat. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter as long as you're in Arafat before Dhuhr. But the sunnah is to pray Fajr and then leave Mina after that. Now, the way these three places are, Mina is on one side, Arafat is all the way on the other side, and Muzdalifah is in the middle. So you have a bit of a journey to cover. I don't know what the logistics of your groups are, but some groups do this whole thing on train, and others do it by bus, depending on the packages that they're going with. So you'll go to Arafat. The point is to be in Arafat before Dhuhr, before Zawal. And there also, according to Ahnaf, if you're praying with the Imam of Hajj in Masjid Namira, then you will pray Dhuhr and Asr together. Otherwise you pray Dhuhr in its time and Asr in its time. Usually the groups have people of different madahib. You should not get into quarrels and start bickering there, of all places, about who's right and who isn't and what's the... Don't do that, and don't try to enforce your madhab on other people either. Don't try to enforce it. If there is a way that you do it, of course, all the madahib are backed by strong proofs from Quran and Sunnah. Every one of them is following Quran and Sunnah, so stop saying, brothers, follow Quran and Sunnah. No, basically what you're saying is follow what you've understood from Quran and Sunnah. You haven't understood everything. So, the wuquf of Arafah is the biggest rukn of Hajj. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Al-Hajju Arafah. This is Hajj. So here on the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, the Hujjaj will do wuquf from Zawal till Maghrib. And our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made dua this entire time. Lots and lots and lots of dua. And there are many fadail, many virtues. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives the people of Arafah. He announces that He has forgiven them. Their dua is accepted. The duas they have made for themselves and the duas they make for other people. Please do not waste this time. This is the most crucial period of Hajj. Make dua, make dua, make dua. When you get tired, do something else. Try not to sleep at that time. If you're over-exhausted, that's fine. But try not to use this time for your own rest too much. Try to use it in the best way possible, in the most efficient way possible. And if you haven't prayed Asr with the Imam, you'll pray Asr and it's fixed time. There'll be talks going on. A lot of the groups have ijtima'i dua where there's times when everyone's doing dua together the rest of the time. When you're not doing dua, do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As an operational matter, I would advise you, do not go outside of your tent and wander about and try to explore the field of Arafat, because you will, in all likelihood, you will not be able to find your way back. And no one's going to go looking for you. Some people, they have this shawq to go to Jabal Arafah, to go to the mountain and do their wuquf there, close to where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did. I don't recommend it because Arafat is an ocean of tents. All the roads look the same, and it's very, very difficult to make your way back. Once you get detached from your group, you've made things difficult for yourself and for everyone else. Some people like to go to Masjid Namira. If you're right in front of it, it's a different story. But I don't recommend you try to go on any adventure trips during this time. Stay in your tent, do wuquf. That whole plain of Arafat is there for your wuquf. So do wuquf where you are and focus on what matters, and that is making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Getting our sins forgiven, making dua for the whole ummah. We will stay there until Maghrib, but we will not pray Maghrib there. No one prays Maghrib, or no one should be praying Maghrib in Arafat. This is the sunnah. So after Maghrib, time has entered, we will depart. It's a huge, massive movement of millions of people, and you will see that. You move and you will go to Muzdalifah. Now, at Muzdalifah is where you will pray Maghrib and Isha together, according to all the madahib, okay, including Ahnaf. The wuquf of Muzdalifah, however, keep in mind, the wuquf of Muzdalifah is not done at night. The actual wuquf of Muzdalifah is done at Fajr time, where you pray Fajr as soon as the time comes in, and then you do wuquf there, you stand and make dua for a little while. That's the actual wuquf of Muzdalifah. Some people think that going to Muzdalifah is the wuquf. And now, again, we're talking about cutting corners and shortcuts and things like that. A lot of people, they leave Muzdalifah the night they'll stay there for a little while and they'll leave. Stay for an hour and leave. They pray their Maghrib Isha and then they depart. Look, the Prophet ﷺ sent only those who were very, very weak and old. ضَعَفَةَ أَهْلِهِ. Those are the people that Nabi ﷺ sent forward because it was going to be too exhausting for them to do the wuquf in the morning. They were tired. He had them stop for a little while and sent them. But remember that the wuquf for someone who is not in that condition, the wuquf of Muzdalifah, which happens at Fajr, is still wajib. It's wajib. So stay there. In some cases, we've been in some groups where even the group leaders, they kind of try to bully you and they say, no, the government has told us that we have to leave at such and such time. The government will not compel you to leave at such and such time. They will not compel you to miss something that is wajib in Hajj. So stay there, rest as much as you can, get up and pray your fajr at the earliest time possible, do your wuquf, and then you come back now to Mina. So you see, you cross Muzdalifah the first time to Arafat, and you come to Muzdalifah itself, and now you're coming back to Mina. Now this is the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. It is an extremely, extremely busy day. It's the busiest day of Hajj. Why? Because you have to do Rami of the Jamarat, you have to have your animal slaughtered, you have to become halal, and then you have to prepare for tawaf of ziyarah or tawaf of ifadah. So the first thing we will do is we will go and do Rami. Okay, and on this day we will only do Rami of the last Jamrah, Jamratul Aqaba. Okay? What they call the big shaitan. Alright? That's all we will do. Rami is a very simple process. It involves pebbles. You would have collected your pebbles along the way. People will remind you of this if you haven't. Don't pick up pebbles there at the Jamarat. Try to pick them up anywhere in Mina, from Muzdalifah. There's pebbles everywhere. And it's 7 pebbles that you're throwing. They've made huge walls now, these big stone walls. You can hit the wall, or even if it falls into that open area around it, that's also fine. For those of you who have families or women folk with them, don't rush with these people into the line of fire, I would say, where people are whipping stones, because some people are extremely careless, and you have people that are whipping these stones from like 100 feet away. It's like baseball practice. And more than once I have been a target of some of those pebbles. I remember once I was doing Rami, and I was about to come back. I came back and pebble hit me right in the face, shattered my, I was wearing glasses, it shattered my glasses. Another time, I got hit in the head, and the intensity of it would tell you that it's from a distance and it's been hurled, and you'll see people whipping these stones. Don't do that. The way to do it with families is take them around the crowd. And don't take them from the side that you're approaching, take them from the side that's away from you. That's where there's almost no rush. Literally nobody standing there. Take them there, take them right up to it so they can do the Rami. Saying takbir is masnoon. There are other du'as that are mentioned in the books. Raghman lil-shaytan wa ridan lil-rahman. Remember, it's an act that's representing pelting shaitan and the wasawis of shaitan. And the sunnah is takbir. I've heard some aunties there saying some pretty big swear words, cursing shaitan for everything he's made them do. I've seen women taking their shoes off and throwing their chappals at him, and people throwing bags and purses. I've seen all kinds of stuff being flung over there, garbage. It's an act of ibadah. It's pebbles. It's 7 small pebbles. It's not boulders. It's not big, massive rocks. It's just boulders that are, just small pebbles. That's it. And you just pick them up with your 2 fingers and you throw them, and that's it. And the time to do this is before Maghrib. Now, we want to try to stay within the time limits as best as possible. Niyaba in Rami, sending someone else in your place, this is only permissible if the person themselves is physically unable to get there, either on their own or through someone's assistance. So if someone is weak or whatever it is, don't do niyaba in Rami if you can get them. If you can get them there on a wheelchair, get them there on a wheelchair, have them do it. Look, it's Hajj. On the other days, I can see I'm running out of time before Isha, you will do Rami of all the Jamarat. and there is a little bit of flexibility in the timing, but this is your optimal timing, okay, between Zawal and Maghrib. Of course, on the first day, you can do Rami as soon as you get there. The time of Rami for the first day starts right with Fajr time. It's open, it's only the one Jamrah. Other days, between Zawal and... Now, the third day, if you decide to stay, you can stay for 2 days after Eid, or you can stay for 3 days. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to, when he performed his Hajj, he stayed. But there's no sin if a person leaves before. But if you stay till Maghrib time, then you need to stay there for the night. Okay. Another couple of pointers. Spend the night in Mina. This is the Sunnah. Some people, they'll take off from Mina, they'll go to Shisha. Those of you who have Hajj places in Shisha, which is just across the mountain, you just walk through the tunnel. If you're staying close to the Jamarat, it's attractive to go to Shisha because it's just a 20-minute walk. Some people will do that. They'll do the Rami and they'll go and stay in Shisha. Some people will go to their hotels and they'll say, okay, we'll come back the next day. Don't do that. Stay in Mina. This is the Sunnah. If you absolutely need to go for some urgent need, that's different. Come back. Let's talk a little bit about this. Back to the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. The tartib, the masnoon tartib. Tartib that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did it with. And according to Ahnaf, it's wajib. According to other madahib, there's more leniency. That it's Rami. And then it's the slaughtering of the animal. And then it's the halq or taqsir, cutting the head. And then you come out of ihram. Okay? Regardless of which madhab you follow, this is the sunnah, so you should stick to it. And if you follow the Hanafi madhab, it's wajib. Otherwise, there is no disagreement that this is the sunnah. So try to make your Hajj as close to the Hajj of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam as possible. Next big thing is tawaf of ziyarah, tawaf of ifada, which you can do the same day. You can go at night. You can do it the next day. You have a couple of days to do this, but you need to do it, and then you got to come back into Mina because you have the Rami of the next day. So for this, you will go back into Mecca. You will not be in a state of ihram for this. You'll be wearing your regular clothes. And at this point, up till from the time your animal is slaughtered and you've cut your hair, until tawaf of ziyarah, everything is halal, except that husband and wife cannot meet in that way. Once this tawaf is done, a person becomes completely halal. Now, there will be some logistical issues that you have to deal with. In some cases, a lot of people say, we're going to go tomorrow because there's going to be too much of a rush the first day. But I've seen it where it's actually less rush on the first day. And the second day, the people that went, they got stuck. It took them 4 hours to do the tawaf. And this is just tawaf. You don't have to do sa'i. If you've done your umrah, you've done your sa'i, you don't need to do sa'i here. It's just tawaf and then you come back. This is basically the summary of whatever I could fit into this very short session. There are many, many other discussions, but I have tried to stick with what is pertinent and what is most important, what I hope all of you will remember. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your intentions, those of you that are going. May Allah azza wa jal accept all your worships, your prayers, and accept your Hajj and make it a source of mercy for you and for the rest of us that you are leaving behind. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to go to those places again and again. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in one hadith, "Tabi'u bayna al-umrati wal-hajj." That try to do them frequently. Hajj, umrah, فَإِنَّهُمَا يَنْفِيَانِ الْفَقْرَ وَالذُّنُوبِ. Because they have the power of removing poverty and sins. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. I know there's some questions. I'm not going to take questions right now. I will see. I will tell you inshallah after salat. I may give a little bit of time for questions. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله